I do recommend Meetup to a lot of my friends that are looking for different things. Wine tasting, movies, book club, meet a lot of new people, a lot of new friends, and it will make you more social. recommend Meetup to a lot of my friends that are looking for different things. Wine tasting, movies, book club, meet a lot of new people, a lot of new friends, and it will make you more social.
Welcome to the third day of HANS team and NEPO match in Belgrade, Serbia. Today we have game 5. Morning game. Nobody's happy about that, especially Hans and Jan. It's always tough to play in the morning, guys, right? How are you doing, chat? It's quite nice weather here in Belgrade. Both of them are ready for big fight. We are hoping for very exciting games. And what is actually better today is camera is not crispy. We can see Jan already sitting in a chair. Hans should come every second here. It was actually the same camera, but the connection was worse. Today, everything is good. And let's take a look at the point scoreboard. Who is leading this match? NEPO won the first game, and then we got 3 draws in a row. Hans is holding now. With the white pieces, NEPO will try to press again and move with a 2 points lead in the match, where later Hans has to get locked in and try to get back. And here is the Hans. Game is starting in a few minutes. Are these games rated? Yeah, of course. And they started the game. NEPO open again with the move c4. As he did in previous game where he was white, and Hans responded with c5. We have symmetrical English. They're already playing some moves. Updating the live board. Knight to f6, knight to c3. Hello everyone, welcome to stream. Is there an advantage to playing white in the morning game? Feel you get more draws in the afternoon round due to the fatigue? I don't know. I believe that morning round is more likely to be quicker draw like yesterday. That's my opinion. Look like we are back in a day 1 room, exactly. And tomorrow we're gonna have the same room as today. So we are fixed. We have also better studio now. And we're playing pretty much similar line. And now Hans played the move knight to e5. NEPO played a move e4. This is actually some good and big theoretical line. Bishop e4 is apparently the only move for black to press here. If he would try anything else, let's say bishop to e7, then f4 will be already very uncomfortable, where knight has to head back, because if you go, let's say, on g4, then something like queen e2 and later h3 will zone out the knight on h6. And that will be actually really problematic for Niemann. That's why bishop b4 is the only move. And here in this position, according to computers, queen to e2 is the best move. There is also an option to go c5. NEPO now is trying to rewind what is in the files. How the files continues from this position. Is it c5 or queen e2? What he wants to do now. Hans locked in, ready for a huge battle. We might need one board also here. You have fans, Hans. Never forget us, of course. Queen e2 played by NEPO. And Hans directly responded with a move d6. Now NEPO should strike maybe with something like f4 here. Trying to provoke the knight where it goes. Is it g6 or c6 here? Technically, there is also an option to take on c3, but usually Black is always keeping this bishop waiting for some bad moves like a3 here. Obviously it's not possible because after capture the knight is falling down, but when you're pinning something, any piece, you're usually keeping that pin as much as you can, so you can make your opponent as long as possible uncomfortable in the game. Video of players must be in small delay. Yeah. There is a little delay. Like maybe 20 seconds or something. I hope you're doing well. For those who don't know me, I'm Eleyah, Field Master from Serbia, and I'm covering this match together with some guests that are joining time to time here in the studio. And on the first day we had 2 grandmasters, and the second day NEPO joined, and we did quick analysis as well. Hans joined yesterday. What time is in Serbia now? Currently 10:06. If it's 1 a.m., that's definitely California time, I would say. What's going on with clocks? I just need to refresh the page, I would say. Every single time when I make analysis on the main board, there is problem with the clock, I would say. Maybe I can adjust the main board also. I can add something like this, maybe. And actually, you don't need evil bar here. And if I technically copy this and make another one, trying to make the clock visible strictly. Some little adjustments. Something like this. and also for NEPO. Yep, I think that's much better. Now we can clearly see the clocks. Yep. Perfect. Okay, guys, I know the chess players are perfectionists, but, you know, we can't have everything perfect here. Okay, we got already many moves on the board. Let's take a look, and we can notice that Hans got a strategical little advantage out of the opening. I don't know if NEPO self-awareness entered this line. It means that I think Hans is still in prep because he's blitzing out all these moves. And he's quite confident with what's happening on the board. He plays the move b6 because he wants to stop c5. This is quite important to keep these double pawns as it's here. And again, we are seeing maybe the third game where NEPO has a bishop here while Hans is playing with knight. So terrible pawn structure for NEPO, and that's what Hans will rely in the future. To be honest with you, I think this is a great chance for Hans to try to press on the queen side, specifically on the c4 pawn. This knight would, okay, not this move of course, but oh, actually, wait, why this move played itself? So queen c7, not c5, let's say something like castles, and then bishop to a6, putting pressure on this pawn. Even better is maybe to start directly with a4, because you want to vacate a square for the knight and get this press on c4. And this is actually what Hans will try to rely on. On the other side, NEPO will push the pawns on the king side, like g4, g5, and trying to go for, technically for queen h5, rook f1, rook f3, and rook h3. This is the typical idea that NEPO will simply sacrifice the queen side. He doesn't care about his pawns, but he'll rely on the checkmate or some breaks in the middle. And we got a castles from NEPO. Yep, South California, you know your time zones very well. I do know because I have many students from US, so New York is 6 hours from Serbia, Denver 8, California 9, India 3.5 hours from Serbia, Australia I think might be 10 or 9, maybe 10 actually when it's summer now. So yeah. What's the score? Many people ask what is the score. Currently in lead for NEPO, 1 score lead, 2.5 against 1.5. But there is 4 more games. We are on 50% of the tournament. Today afternoon we're gonna have the game 6, 2:30 Central Europe time. It will be 8:30 New York, and it will be almost evening in Asia and very late evening in Australia. So put your alarms and wait also for the next game. Such a exciting weekend in chess. We also have the Norway chess as well, the match in Belgrade. HANS NEPO, which is like marking also the history where Boris Spassky and Robert James Fischer played the match for the world champion here in Belgrade many years ago. And as we mentioned, NEPO goes for the checkmate. Rook f3, rook h3 followed by g5, some queen h5 stuff, and that's actually what he wants. Are they still in the theory? This is incredible. 18 moves in the game, and they're blitzing out everything. What is happening? HANS 1 hour 5 minutes, NEPO 1 hour 1 minute. I would like both of them later. And he's still blitzing out. f6. That must be in the prep. He was looking for defense, I would say. The only move. Why f6? How about rook h3? He wants rook f7. And he wants to stop g5. So he can always take, and even if queen h5 happens, he wants g6 so rook can protect that pawn. Very smart idea by HANS. I would say that was in the preparational file, since he's playing that quickly. Let's see if NEPO will respond quickly. Why they're playing engine lines? I mean, that's high-level chess, guys. That's high-level chess. And NEPO suddenly start spending some time on the clock. Not sure if he's gonna respond very quickly after this, but he has to go and keep his plan with rook h3. Or maybe rook g3, depends what he mainly wants with this move. But he wants checkmate because he understands that if HANS expand this game until the endgame, NEPO will definitely have a lot of problems because of certain double structures on the C line, which HANS will definitely use by pushing a4, going knight f5, and then simply undermining the pawn on c4. This is definitely gonna be a very interesting game. I actually like how HANS played this line. We can rewind what happened. So they start with 4 knights English, and NEPO break the center immediately, where after e6, HANS is looking forward to bring this bishop out. Queen b6 puts the pressure on the knight, knight goes to b3, and HANS goes for knight e5, e4, bishop to b4, pins the knight, so typically threatening now takes on e4. NEPO protects the pawn in the center. HANS opens up the other bishop, also consolidates the center. Bishop to d2, unpins the knight. a5, f4. NEPO is expanding the pawns, getting some space on the king side. Knight to c6, bishop to e3, queen to d8. NEPO brings the knight back because he understands that he needs to defend the pawn properly. Despite defending, after a3, he's anyway losing the structure on the c line, as we saw in the game, and after b6, HANS is stabilizing the dark squares. After bishop to g2 and queen c7, it's clear that HANS is rooting for the endgame now, while in the previous games we mostly saw that NEPO is the one that we're looking for the endgames. And after castles, bishop a6, g4, knight e7, these moves, they all blitz out. Rook f3, f6, and NEPO played very quickly rook h3. HANS responded with rook f7. NEPO played rook to b1. So many moves played very quickly. 21 moves in the game. Both of them are having more than 1 hour on the clock. This is very interesting. They're not wasting their time. Is this live? No, this stream is from the past. What is your predictions for the World Championship match? Gukesh Sindarov. Yesterday we answered that question, but I'm gonna do it again now. I believe that technically it will be very exciting because it's not just the very young match of two players, two youngsters, prodigies. It's also the match of styles because Gukesh is more like a technique player and very good in calculation. On the other side, Sindarov is very aggressive and dynamic. And NEPO played very quickly queen f2. He puts the pressure on the b6 pawn and gets out from this spin because he understands that HANS is very ready to start breaking down with d5 and using this spin to undermine the queenside pawn structure. Do spectators in back just have to sit in silence? Correct. There is no single noise in the other room. NEPO position is better. Guys, just to mention that it doesn't have to be that your position is good if your pawns are taking more space in the middle. Sometimes it's even more riskier. We can already notice that NEPO is behind on the queen side because of his bad pawn structure on the C line, while on the other side he has some ideas on the king side, but that doesn't have to be that he's better. He may have some ideas of press on h7, but that's only temporarily. He needs to build up that properly, or trying to push these pawns as soon as possible to get some space. On the other side, this bishop might join the defense here. For this pawn, it's quite typical idea. But sometimes he doesn't even mind sacrificing this pawn as long as he is providing enough counterplay on the king side. Like in the Nimzo. If you're playing Nimzo Indian, you will understand that you're never defending this pawn, and you're just going for the king side attack if the king is castle on g8. How to pronounce Nepomniachtchi? Exactly like I pronounce now, Nepomniachtchi. Hello Eleyah, what's your prediction for this match? Can Hans come back in this match? Yeah, of course, I believe. This is not clear yet. He's only 1 point behind. There's 4 games to go. He has now very nice position, playable position, dynamic position. Strategically good for him because he likes this type of positions, on playing on small weaknesses. While NEPO on the other side likes imbalances. He's trying to make the imbalance here, but if Hans managed to lock down the king side somehow and stop threats of NEPO, then he has pretty much straightforward break on the C line where he'll just collect all his pawns. Let's see who is more in the chat. Hans fans or Jan's fans? Put 1 for Hans, 2 for NEPO. Let's see. NEPO burning some time now. I would say rewinding the lines. Playing f5 here is technically possible, but this definitely allows this knight to come on e5, and when you're making this type of structure, you're trying to avoid closing up this bishop as much as possible. Not this move, of course, but this bishop is permanently closed. You can notice that wherever you put this bishop, you are technically suffering from restrictions. Yeah, you can take the pawn on e6, but that doesn't really matter because this pawn can do the job alone, and also he doesn't have knights to put here. That's the promise of bishops now, and yesterday NEPO has bad pawn structure. I think also in the third game NEPO had a very bad pawn structure the same way. So technically, this is also very possible to grind. Like, okay, he has some ideas like queen h4, I would say h6, let's say. But definitely NEPO has to find a way for these knights to come on f5 square, do something, and so on. And after knight on e7, NEPO played the move queen to h4, which threatens the checkmate in one move here, which allows Hans to play knight to f8. And there is also one other very fancy move, g5 here, which is recommended by computer, but I believe no one will play that. The point of that is after takes, to play knight to g6. Not really to take back, because you're going to just drop your pawn. And we're after queen moves, let's say on h6. Now just to bring the other knight to the game. So practically speaking, he wants to sacrifice the pawn, but completely play on the worst possible structure that we can get with white pieces against any Sicilian. And this is just something what finally Hans wants to see. But of course, he didn't think about that. He quite quickly played a move knight f8. He put that knight back, protect the h7. He doesn't want to push any pawns. He wants to focus on c4. He wants to take that pawn, and he wants to do some stuff. Queen f2 back, knight e7, queen h4. Guys, is this repetition? Guys, no. Is this possible? Draw? Will we make a draw? No way. No way, guys. Guys, we just started. Guys, we just started. Why he's making a draw? Oh my god. This is hilarious. This is hilarious. Okay, maybe we can try to bring them both here, because if they want to both to take a look at this game, that would be beautiful, but I don't know why they did that quick draw. What's happening here? Maybe Hans didn't want to risk. Alright guys, this was completely unexpected. Quite dynamic position, but okay. Hans, I believe, doesn't mind to draw this position because it's a morning game also and he doesn't want to risk. He is completely fine with this result on the end of the day. If you're just looking as a single match, imagine that this is some open tournament, then maybe it's completely fine for him in that way. For us, it's not, because we want to see some big clash. We can take a look before we go for the very big break until the next round. We can take a look what actually happened here in this game. So it was very interesting line where Hans could definitely play. We see this idea of g5, which is most probably possible because with this pawn sacrifice, he's getting these dark squares, and that's actually what he could rely on for the rest of the game. If he managed to get his bishop on e3, he would be able to win the game quite quickly, because terrible bishop, terrible knight. The only active pieces for NEPO is on the H line, and I believe NEPO is more than happy to take a draw in this position, because HANS is the one that could fight back very nicely with this move g5. I believe that he'll see that after he checks with a computer this idea that this pawn sacrifice really works, because just look closely. After NEPO takes, knight g6, queen moves to h6, and knight from d to e5. Once the f pawn get traded for the g pawn, then suddenly also the f line gets open. And these knights are already heavily uncomfortable here for NEPO. This was such a great chance for HANS, definitely, and I believe that he might regret that he took threefold repetition here. So the current score is 3-2 for NEPO. The next game starts, I think, 4 hours from now. Is he coming for the interview? Unfortunately not. They prefer to rest. Maybe we'll hear them in the afternoon's round. 4 hours. Yeah, unfortunately, guys. But anyways, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching this exciting opening preparation. It was my pleasure to comment engine prep. And I believe the next round will bring more excitement to us. I'll see you soon, guys.